It appears to me, and I think to a lot of people who watched that game last night, that hey, this particular roster as currently constructed is just not. It feels like it's hitting a ceiling, like it's capping out a little bit.
Okay.
And one of the changes they've already made, and whether they do or don't make a trade, TBD, I think they will. Who that's for, couldn't tell you. We have some ideas, we have some thoughts, but one of the changes they've already made is inserting Chris Duarte into the starting lineup over Kevin Huerter.
Yes.
And this is something that started back in the preseason, right? Chris Duarte went into the starting lineup. He was actually going to start again, but then got hurt. Kevin Huerter goes back into the starting lineup, and that's just kind of where he was up until a couple nights ago. And Mike Brown said before the year that this team needs to get to a new level defensively. They're not going to be 20, what were they, 25th in defensive rating last year?
Yeah. So
25th, 23rd?
Yeah, 24th, 25th.
Not going to be that spot in defensive rating again.
Yep.
They're going to get better. And when you look at the Kings lineup and you look at their roster top to bottom, and somebody in the chatty house asked this, why not Harrison Barnes? Because it's not going to be Domas, it's not going to be De'Aaron Fox, it's not going to be Keegan Murray. They're in the starting lineup. That's the case. That's always going to be the case. So you have Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes. Well, I think the reason that Kevin Huerter gets circled and not Harrison Barnes is A, because Barnes is a little bit better defender, but B, the Kings have more options to replace Kevin Huerter than they do Harrison Barnes.
Yes.
They don't have a lot of players that can play that. Trey Lyles, like, okay, but that's it.
Yeah. Like, I think what's missing, what people miss about Harrison Barnes, and like, look, people think that I'm just like the biggest Harrison Barnes supporter ever.
It's a little frustrating, but go on.
But the problem that you have is that Harrison Barnes is a 3-4, right? He can play either position. Trey Lyles, Sasha Vezenkov, they are 4s. And in Trey Lyles' case, he's a 4-5. Like, switchability, having two guys who can be a 3 or a 4 is the modern NBA. And while I do believe that you can find a better player than Harrison Barnes, you don't have a better player than Harrison Barnes today. And I know that some people say, well, Trey Lyles. Okay, but the problem is that we keep seeing Keegan Murray get switched onto 2s and onto 1s. Like, that's how the Kings are playing this, right? They're using him to defend all kinds of people. Well, the switchability factor matters. That means that Trey Lyles now has to defend 3s and sometimes 2s. They're like, it's a switching thing that happens all the time. Like, I'm not saying Trey can't do it, but I'm saying that Harrison Barnes is better at it. And does Harrison Barnes get beat sometimes? Sure, he does. But like, the defensive player of the year last year was Jaren Jackson Jr., and Domantas Sabonis just took him to the woodshed. So sometimes it's about matchups. Sometimes it's about the type of player you're playing against, but it doesn't mean Harrison Barnes is a bad player.
No, and that doesn't mean that the Kings can't upgrade at that spot either. They just don't right now have that player on their roster.
It's not there. That's all I'm saying.
If they go get Kyle Kuzma, then sure.
Yeah.
But right now that player is not there. However, when you remove Kevin Huerter, now you have Keon Ellis is an option, Davion Mitchell's an option, Chris Duarte is an option. They have all these different players that they can throw into that spot and say, hey, let's see how this works. And right now it's Duarte. And this is why they went and got Chris Duarte. Because they wanted to get better defensively, and that is what he is very good at.
Yeah.
And their defensive rating is not particularly improving.
It is. They jumped from 21 to 16 yesterday. Remember we said they're like 15.3 and there's a bunch of teams at 50. Like they were able to take a jump to number 16.
Look at that.
All is right in the world. All is right in the world.
Congratulations to Mike Brown. Just got the Midas touch. He's pushing all the right buttons.
He just the world's best cup of coffee. He just made it the world's best cup of coffee. Congratulations. Yeah.
So when's the parade?
So look, I have people kick back on this idea all the time. Like, I don't know why there are people that don't, like, you can disagree with me, but if you can't see the comparison between Bobby Jackson and Malik Monk, I don't know. And I think the memory of what Bobby Jackson was, or the memory of what Doug Christie was, sometimes outweighs who they actually were on the court. And if you go back, like, Chris Duarte, in all reality, could be equal to or better than the offensive player that Doug Christie was in Sacramento. Like when he was with Toronto, sure, 15, 16 points per game. When he was in Sacramento, that's not what he did. He averaged 12.4, 12.3, 12 points per game. His final year, he averaged 9.4 and 10. Like Doug Christie was the fifth option on the offensive side, but he also was a good assist man. He was an outstanding defender. He was a 2.3 steals per game guy. Like there are certain things that he did, and this Kings team needs a glue guy. And that's what Doug was. He was the glue that kept everything together.
Yep.
Like you had your leader was Vlade. Your best player was Chris Webber. Your best shooter was Peja Stojakovic. But your glue guy, the guy who held everything together, the guy that didn't mind diving on the floor, didn't mind punching Rick Fox in the face, didn't mind defending Kobe Bryant, that was Doug Christie. And that is where I think Chris Duarte can fit in. Now, he's got a long way to go before I truly say he's that type of player.
Sure.
But that's the type of player he's molded after. He needs to show me that his basketball IQ is where Doug's eventually got to, and that he can think the game the way that Doug did, because that's a big deal.
Well, yeah. And I think, I mean, the fact that Doug had 10 years in the league, 9 years in the league before he got to Sacramento.
Yes.
It makes the learning curve a little bit different.
Yeah.
For sure.
Even if you look at Doug as a 26-year-old, he averaged 14.5 in Toronto. Again, the shooting numbers weren't great. His overall field goal percentage wasn't great. I mean, he started 50 games during the lockout season. He shot 38.8% from the field and 30% from three. Like, I think the image of Doug is a little bit, first of all, he's an incredible dude, and he was on the broadcast, and he's, for a lot of people, he's their favorite King. But also his intensity on the court, that's what we're talking about. His willingness to step up and defend the toughest guy on the opposing team. That's what we're talking about. And I think it's great. Mike Brown talked about it last night that Chris Duarte has been working with Dip, who's one of their development guys.
Dip.
Okay. I don't know his full name, but that's what they call him. And
that's how you know he's a real one.
I actually believe that's his first name, but
okay.
Either way, he's been working with him, Leandro Barbosa, and Doug Christie on defending without fouling, on stopping with the grabbing and getting his hands up, leading with his chest, all this stuff. And we're seeing the improvement. So it shows me that Chris Duarte has an acumen for learning and for taking another step. So I'm okay with, I don't mind the move. Early in the season, when De'Aaron Fox wasn't a 31 point or 30 per game guy, I think you still need Kevin Huerter.
Yeah.
But this team, a team grows organically. It becomes what they are. And right now, this team needs somebody that can stop somebody from going to the basket and getting Domantas Sabonis in foul trouble.
Just to be clear, in case this isn't, because I know people jump in halfway or maybe they're half listening.
Yeah.
You're not saying that Chris Duarte is Doug Christie right now.
No.
It is, can he grow into over the next, ideally few months, but over the next, maybe season or two, can he grow into that?
Yeah.
Can he become that type of player?
That type of player.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, some of the Chris Duarte still needs to prove he can stay on the court.
1,000%.
Like he does.
He needs to prove that he can do what he did last night for a 10-game stretch
or 40 more games.
Right.
He needs to show that, and he doesn't have
a lot to prove still.
12, 7, and 4.
Right.
But those are 12, 4, and 3, or 10, 4, and 3. If he can do that and play an elite defense and shoot 34 to 36% from 3, okay, I'm in.
Yep.
Because you can cover any of his deficiencies with the rest of that roster.
Right. He just can't be a liability offensively. Make teams guard him. That's it.
Yeah. And I think he will. I mean, this is a guy that, as a rookie, averaged 14 points a game or whatever, was 13.6.
Yeah, he can shoot it too. Shot it in college. He shot it as a rookie. He shot it really well. So
yeah,
I like the idea, and I certainly see what Mike Brown was doing, or what the Kings were doing when they signed him, and I see what Mike Brown's doing now. And frankly, I like it. I like that he's not just going, hey, we're running it back. Hey, this is the best offense in the league last year. Hey, did you see that stat real quick? Did you see that stat that last year's Kings set a record for the best offensive rating of all time? Offensive rating, points scored per 100 possessions. They are now 6th highest ever. And like 8 of the 12 or 10 of the 12 highest offensive ratings of all time are this year.
Okay, so
that is nuts.
18.6 was the number last year.
118.6.
118.6. The Pacers are at 122.2. The Celtics are at 120.9. The Bucks are at 120.7. The 76ers at 120.4. The Thunder at 119.2. And the Atlanta Hawks are at 119.1. The Kings would be 7th now. 7th. Their number last year, which was the highest of all time, would be 7th. The game is changing. And I'm telling you, man, teams just aren't playing defense.
They got to
do
something, dude.
Nobody's playing defense.
The league's got to do something. They got to make it. Bring back hand checking or something. I don't know. You got to do something though.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't know.
I love offense. I love points. I'm here for it. But like, come on
now. Like,
it's not just pace and threes.
The best team in the league's defensive rating is the Minnesota Timberwolves at 108.2. That's a lot.
That's so many points.
121.2 is worse.
They're giving up like 108 a night, basically.
Yeah.
And they're the best defense in the league.
Yeah. And they're the only team that's held a lot of teams under 100. I think it's like 9 times or something.
Yep.
Everyone else is like 2. God. We've done it twice. Yeah.